Yeah, I mean, I'm not being facetious here. I'm not joking about that. That's going on. And they're increasingly subject to medication, drugs, and behavior modifications. But there's even a larger group of, I think, folks who are being described as mentally ill who are engaged in what I would call more of a passive rebellion. So there's millions of kids out there who are bored in boring schools who just don't pay attention because it's not interesting for them. They're not getting anything out of it. And so they're being labeled with attention deficit, hyperactivity disorder. And so you got millions more who are just depressed, completely depressed because their lives are completely alienating. They hate what they're doing for a living. They're working on jobs only to hold on to health insurance. Their lives are miserable. And so, they're medicalized with a mental illness.
Okay. And that's the first part of the clip. The second part's up on MaxKeiser.com. Max, my issue is I'm going after, as the doctor, I hadn't even seen the clip. I just wanted to play it. As he said that everybody isn't under this. I'm after the people who didn't know or who were slowly brought into denial, who never really paid attention to the world, that kind of just accept what's put in front of them. I'm trying to wake them up or get them to see what's happening. And all we talk about here is solutions and ideas and ways to counter this. But I do get your point of just exposing it and then people just laying there and taking it. For a certain percentage of the public, it will make it worse for them. They're not given a silver bullet, some easy 1-inch punch, because I don't believe that exists. And so they just get deeper in to submitting to their pimp. And when he talks about giving them flowers, that's like John Gotti, the Teflon Don, a couple times a year would buy pizzas for the whole neighborhood, fireworks displays. He would pay for a funeral for somebody. Just like the government puts all these billboards up and TV ads and radio ads of how they're helping us and they're our daddy and they're the authority and they're going to keep us safe. That is the carrot of the stick. Max Keiser.
Well, the doctor is saying that at some point in the cycle, the truth, the people recognize what is as the truth is making them feel even sicker. And
so we don't tell them the truth?
Excuse me?
So we don't tell people what's happening?
Well, that's the paradox, and
No, they want to make you depressed and go that direction, so you are broken, as he said, and just submit to it. I'm saying end the mind control, end the literal hoax we're under, the spell, the trance we're in.
Well, I mean, let's think of, in your case, for example, your film, The Obama Deception. I was one of those people that was reluctant to accept it. Then I saw it. At some point, I saw it as the truth. I made that transition. And in your shows, you're now at a point now where it's no longer so-called conspiracy theories. A lot of what you're talking, the majority of what you're talking about now, which was dismissed even a year or two ago as conspiracy theory, is now becoming the truth. This is not a conspiracy theory anymore.
We're winning.
Well, it's being recognized as the truth. Okay, so that brings us up to the present, which is now what is the action?
We beat Copenhagen. Hold on. We exposed the flu. Most people don't take the shot. It's a huge fraud. Most people know. We exposed Copenhagen. We're winning. I mean, the strategy is working.
Well, the truth is being revealed, and now the question is, as far as an action goes, you're saying that a multifaceted attack is what you're thinking about.
Because we're being hit by a multifaceted attack.
Okay, and my thought is that I fall into this category, let's call it a 1-inch punch or a single thrust, and that's my thought. I mean, that's how
Tell us what the 1-inch punch is.
Well, the 1-inch punch, in other words, you want to drop somebody with one punch. You don't want to be getting into a fight with them.
Yeah, you want to tear their nose off with the first punch. So what is the 1-inch punch?
Okay, well, after looking at every single company in the United States, and if you think about boycotts as the cheap way to engage activism, the only company that is the most vulnerable to a mass boycott, which would cause the 1-inch punch effect and destroy that company in a matter of 3 months, is Coca-Cola. Now, you may tell me that, well, I've got no beef with Coca-Cola, and I've got no problem with Coca-Cola. But I state to you that the activist community or the community of listeners to your show, in my show...
They would learn that victory, then we could do it to others. I say go after the airlines, but go ahead.
Well, the problem with the airlines is that they're not vulnerable to a boycott. I did a study, and I looked at every single company on the stock exchange, and I looked at it from 2 ways. Vulnerability to a boycott, which I determined as the stock price over the sales, So for every dollar of sales that you withhold from the company, it would have the biggest impact on the price of the stock. So airlines do not have a huge vulnerability to a boycott.
Really, they've already lost a lot of money from people not engaged in terrorism because of all the garbage. But I mean, okay, you're the expert on this. I'll believe you. So you go after Coca-Cola. How do you go after them?
Well, instead of spreading your bet and saying, I'm going to be a part of this group and that group and this boycott and that boycott, every single person who is feeling like the abuse syndrome is kicking them right now, and they're being treated like chattel in the banker's meat grinder of speculation. If everything, and that includes probably 100 million Americans or more, I would think, anybody who's trying to work for a living, if you simply do not drink Coca-Cola for 3 to 6 to 9 months, and you take the stock price down to zero, and that's key. You know if you're winning because every single day the Wall Street Journal publishes the stock price. If the stock price is going down, you're winning. And the goal is to simply take the price of the stock to zero. Now, of course, people will say, well, what about all the people who work at that company? They're going to lose their job. I have news for you. You're going to lose your job anyway, or you're going to be disintermediated out of existence anyway. It's beyond trying to finesse the situation now. We have to show them that we can drop them to the mat with a single punch. Coke is the most vulnerable. It's the most vulnerable to a boycott. And I've done the study on this, and this is the company that is the one.
Well, you got to have a reason to boycott them on the surface, and that would be putting aspartame, the feces of bacteria, in the Coke. And for those that don't know, that's how they make aspartame. They feed toxic waste to genetically engineered E. coli. They feed toxic waste to genetically engineered E. coli, and then they put it in your drinks and food, and it brain damages you. All right, Max, we'll come back and take calls, get into other issues. Max, on the economy overall, we have the economic numbers coming in, as you've been saying several years on this show and many years on your own television shows, that the banks are vertically integrating the economy. This is a criminal operation. You talk about Goldman Sachs execs in that bar bragging to you how they were going to bring down that Atlantic country of Iceland and Retrovec when you were there. And then we have a 5-part series in McClatchy newspapers where Goldman Sachs was engineering the housing implosion while telling their people to buy into it, to consolidate, destroy their competition. That's now confirmed. U.S. growth prospects deemed bleak in new decade. Reuters. Personal bankruptcy filings rising fast to record levels. Robert Rubin now posing as the savior when he's one of the grand architects, saying all hell could break loose if we don't fix our government debt. They want all these new taxes. They have Glenn Beck calling for it. You're a liberal commie if you're not for more taxes. Again, they can only have Obama launch wars as a liberal and only have fake conservatives call for new taxes. That's how this song and dance works. American job satisfaction falls a record low. Worst Christmas since 1979. Your comments on that quickly, Max Keiser.
Well, the decade of the 1930s, the Depression, at the end of the decade, the market still managed to make 10%, including reinvestment of all dividends. The decade that just ended, the total return was a whopping 0. Now, the problem is that you can't have capitalism without capital. And you can't have capital unless people are saving money. And people can't save money unless they have jobs that pay them enough to save money. So unless that happens, which is not going to happen because all the policies are geared toward making it easier for the banks to speculate. And speculating is not a job. Speculating is a vice when it's done on the level it's being done on Wall Street and it's being helped along by Washington. So the business model of America is vice. It's speculation. It's casino. And the people getting victimized are being put into this American gulag. And whether you're being, how about this one? Prisoners used to shovel snowbound U.S. Capitol. The U.S. Capitol is paying prisoner inmates to shovel the sidewalks.
Washington Post. You can't hire Americans to do it. They said they paid them $7 an hour, but 80% of that was given to the prison.
That's what I'm talking about. It's slave labor. They're in the gulag. So they let the gulag people out for a few hours to shovel snow.
Stay there. We'll be right back in 1 minute. Stay there, Max. Good point.